makati muri Zimbabwe kusangana zvekare pano apa chivhitivhiti pa TV yenyu patinenge tichikupai nyaya inondodetsa ndingachitika munyika yeZimbabwe. Mamiriro zvakaita muri Zimbabwe ndeekuti zviri kunzi zvoni ZRP according to Crime Watch varikutaura vachiti ZRP yadeploya armed officers nepolisi nembwa kuma offices avatendai Biti ku Milton Park guta reHarare. Zviri kunzi mushure mekunge Biti ari ndiye leader of CDF inonzi Constitution Defenders Forum akataura kuti I will die for constitution. Ndofunga makanzwa last interview yavakanga vachitaura pavakaadresa manje nyaya yekuchinja bumbiro remutemo. Ofisi yake iri kunzi patoiswa bhesi repolisi kuti dzinge dzichiongorora kuti ari kufamba sei, ari kumonitwa kuti maybe anogona kuunganidza chaunga zvekatanga. Hondo haisi kuchaunga kwese kuna Tendai Biti kwavari kuungana. Hondo iri muZANU-PF mavo vega imomo ndo mune hondo, ndo muchasimudza hondo. Saka muri Zimbabwe isusu hatina kwakawanda kwatiri kuenda nemo. Nyaya iripo ndeye constitution. Isusu tine zvimwe zvinhu zvada kuti tichikuonesai. Makombodzi ari panapa vari kutaura nyaya dzeconstitution. Saka tichakusiyai makateerera kwavari because nyaya yekuchinja bumbiro remutemo ndo nyaya iri kunetsa izvozvo.
ZDF it means kuti they are bound to the constitution and they must act in defense of the constitutional order yemunyika, and they should not be in a position, or they should not be put in a position whereby they obey unlawful orders. We were wondering what happened on the August 1st, who gave the order to go and kill civilians. And by upholding, this constitution, it means kuti they cannot act outside what they are mandated to do, the constitutional limits. And they've got also a duty to resist any unconstitutional conduct. That is a very substantive obligation, and it is not a procedural one. That is what we need to know. In its state, when it comes to be upholding this constitution, but what the amendment seeks to do is to replace the wording to uphold this constitution with in accordance with the constitution. That kind of constitutional language that they are trying to use right there is a downgrading of the roles and responsibilities of the ZDF when it comes to the constitution. Because when you're upholding, you are translating it to an active duty. They've got an active duty. But when we start to use the language in accordance with, it is a conditional compliance. So what we are having is, with the upholding of the constitution, we are speaking of the wording that gives a mandate. The other one that is just ask them to operate within a framework. So what this government is proposing is saying, or the argument that they are using, or the argument that they are putting forward, is to say they want to substitute or to delete the active duty and replace it with the conditional compliance. And they are arguing that if they do that, it is going to be reinforcing sections 213 and section 214. What do these sections refer to? The two sections 213 and 214, they deal with one who can deploy the defense forces. So in our situation is the president. And the 214, so 213 speaks of who can deploy, and 214 speaks of the parliamentary oversight. So looking at how parliament, must be informed. So when the government is making, this claim that it is, they want to align section 212 with the deployment, provisions, and they're arguing that it is going to um um sort of, streamline, things. That is what, they are arguing. But if we cast a critical eye on this, the government is weakening the ZDF's duty to constitutionalism. Because if the ZDF is no longer going to be having that explicit obligation to uphold the constitution, then their duty becomes that of following orders, obedience to orders, and not to defend the constitutional order. So basically, we risk creating a situation whereby the loyalty of the ZDF is going to shift from the constitution to the executive, to Emerson Mnangagwa. And their responsibility is going to be reduced, the responsibility to resist unconstitutional command. Because if you're now answering to the executive, it means you have to follow what the executive is following you. I mean, is telling you, even if it is unconstitutional. So there's a profound shift there in the relationship, in the civil military, relations. But we all know, Kuti, every institution or every state organ is already acting in accordance with the constitution anyway. So this amendment is never going to be adding anything, but it is going to be removing, something. That something that it is going to be removing is going to lead to situations whereby the accountability, the ZDF's accountability is going to be narrowed. When it comes to us as the citizens now, we've got a right to challenge the military actions by saying you failed to uphold the constitution. But under the amendment that they are proposing, they're opening up to a test which becomes that we are going to be asking our army, did you act in accordance with the constitution? And this is a higher bar for us citizens and the courts, to prove. It's a higher bar because if Z is the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, the duty is no longer to the constitution but to the chain of command, then the power of the president is expanding. The parliamentary oversight is going to be weakened, and the risk of the military to become more politically vulnerable is heightened. And this is exactly what constitutional democracy is against. So that is what we are facing as Vanani Zimbabwe with this amendment. Yahweh Yawada Kuisai. I don't know, because some people were arguing that these changes, they want to water down the influence of the army, or water down, um, or stop probably what happened in 27 in 2017. I'm not sure whether it is something that can be something. Yeah, I don't know whether it is a point that can be deduced from this. But what they are trying to do is the safeguards that are in place are going to be, removed. I'm not sure what their thinking process is. I'm not sure what they want to achieve, but there are consequences to what they're about to do. Because as it stands already, right now, all what they're trying to do is already catered for in this constitution. There's no need to be changing the wording. There's no need for that. Our army, we've already come to know them within this constitution as having an independent constitutional responsibility. That in addition to following orders, they are also bound directly by this constitution. So if the latter is removed, then their responsibility, their independent responsibility is narrowed, making them or exposing them to a situation whereby they are at the mercy of the president, of authorized instructions, instead of defending constitutionalism itself. Zvokuti kana imimi mukada kuendesa ningi any action inenge yaitwa defense forces kumatare edzimhosva, which is arguing kuti izvo they failed in their positive duty to prevent or resist unconstitutional acts. But now we are going to be asking the courts to look at something else that is different from the mandate that the ZDF is given under the current situation. Saka, I don't know. That is what we are facing with this new one that they want to to bring. And the moment that parliamentary and public scrutiny is watered down, it means they can even command the army to go out there and shoot the people, kill the people. Like what Donald Trump was saying with dealing with the enemy, within. The army can be used, for that. Deployment of the army to deal with maybe strikes or demonstrations, which can be maybe dealt with by our riot police or the police, themselves. Saka, when we are looking at this, we don't want a situation whereby there is executive control or there's no oversight. And that is the path that they want to take us on. Yesterday we spoke about, the overreach. And you wonder by their amendment number one, by their resolution number one, how did we get here? How come we are here? How come we are looking? How come we are looking at watering down the responsibility of the army? How come we are looking at a situation that it is going to be difficult to have parliamentary oversight? How come we are looking at a situation whereby it's going to be difficult for you, the public, to hold the army accountable when it comes to their duty of upholding, that constitution?